The cyanide industry in 2001 made up nearly half of all the chemical releases in the United States, the largest of any industry. Nearly half of all the chemical releases were from the mining industry. And in the same year, the United States EPA identified 40% of the headwaters of Western watersheds had sections contaminated by cyanide. I'm sorry, by mining. It wasn't all cyanide. 40%, that's almost half the watersheds of the Western United States had contamination from mining. This is not a benign industry. So let's look at the cyanide transportation route. You'll be pleased to know it's not coming through Halifax anymore, it's going through Truro. Why is that? Because fewer people would be affected if there were an accident with cyanide. I'm sure the people of Truro will be thrilled to know that they are more expendable than people in Halifax. Still going over country roads. You can see where it's going. It'll go by train to Truro from Tennessee, I think, DuPont, and then down the 102 to Enfield, up the 227, the 224, through Middle Musquodoboit, through Elmsvale, over to Moose River Gold Mines. That's not a great road. One of the things the DDV Gold says is, oh, we don't want anything from the government. We're not asking for any money. Oh, sure, as though the government and the communities will let the cyanide trucks go over country roads and risk a spill. No, those roads will be upgraded, and you know who will be paying for it. Until now, we've been talking about accidents, but now we want to turn to what's going to happen for sure, whether or not there are accidents. The threats to human and environmental health that will happen with a gold mine. There's going to be water pollution, for sure. There's going to be air pollution, for sure. There's going to be a lot of noise in a wilderness that is so quiet they can't now measure the background noise. And then after the mine closes, there's going to be a legacy. Water pollution. We have three issues to look at: contaminants, arsenic and mercury and others, both in the surface water and in the groundwater. Eutrophication, that cyanide breaks down, leaving nitrates. Those nitrates are nutrients in the water. They cause algal blooms. Eventually, all the organisms die off. As they decompose, they use oxygen, depriving the fish of oxygen, and that's where you get fish kills. That's what happened in PEI with the fertilizer runoff. That's going to happen. We're going to get acidity. There's exposed bedrock. And the sulfides and the pyrites, fool's gold, interestingly enough, are going to be exposed to air. They're going to combine with water to form sulfuric acid, which is toxic to fish. And we'll talk about acidity a little later on. Air pollution. I mean, what can you say? Dust, carbon dioxide, cyanide gas, and acid rain. The dust would be generated from the blasting, the rock crushing and grinding, and from building the waste rock pile. The sulfur dioxide and the hydrogen sulfide and ammonia would be emitted from the mine in the extraction process and would come down as acid rain. And this with Tangier Grand on one side and Ship Harbor, Ship Harbor Long Lake, just downwind. It would also affect, the air pollution would affect the rare endangered species that is found there and very few other places, the boreal felt lichen. I didn't even know we had a boreal felt lichen, but we're very special because there are very few places that have it. And the company's attitude to it is exactly this. Well, there are none found on the project site, and they might be downwind, but if they're found in one place, I'm sure they're found in another. That's from their environmental assessment. Noise is a no-brainer. It's going to be a heavy industrial site. The company is trying to tell us that all the noise and all the dust will be contained within the open pit. None will get out. All right? The mine would operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with regular explosions, the noise of heavy machinery, trucks, crushers. It's bound to disrupt wildlife, the trout in the lakes, the mainland moose, which is an endangered species, has a population in that area. It would definitely degrade the wilderness experience in Ship Harbor Long Lake, our beloved candidate wilderness area, and even there's a children's camp there, Camp Kitson. It's been there for years. It's 3 kilometers north of the mine, and their experience would be disrupted. All right, what are the consequences for people? Well water quality might be endangered, especially in the Lake Charlotte area, Upper Lakeville, Beach Hill, and Ship Harbor. Air quality, we've talked about that. There's a potential impact on businesses. Do you remember that how the Fish River watershed comes down? There are shellfish production businesses there. There are lobster pounds. It would have an effect on both conventional tourism and ecotourism. The days are long gone where people want to go and see how a gold mine works, or you remember how people wanted to go see how a pulp and paper factory works, the smell of sulfur. Well, it's the same with this. They want to put an interpretive center overlooking the gold mine. What are they going to do after 5 years? It'll be an interpretive center overlooking a devastated, derelict industrial site. I have a little attitude toward these things. Fishing, hunting, and other activities of great value to people on the Eastern Shore would be impacted. And then, of course, there are those accidents. The environmental consequences, what can you say? Deforestation. It's about 1,000 acres, of which about half is forested, and that would all go. The tailings management facility receives all the toxins. They are precipitated out mostly by gravity, and they stay right where they fall, in the ground. When the gold is all gone, what will happen is that toxic material will stay right there. In addition to that, periodically, they'll be scraping out the bottom of the polishing pond where the toxins are even more concentrated. And they'll be burying that in clay cells inside the old tailings pond. Then they'll cover it with earth. Thank you. So it's a time bomb. It's a chemical time bomb for people 100 years from now. Do we know what happened with mining 100 years ago? Do we know where the old shafts are? Do we know where the tailings are? The answer is no, we don't. So we are creating problems for the future, and they are permanent problems. And even though they say, well, we'll line it, and if it leaks, we'll fix it. Well, they can't. It's huge.